Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the Global Reality Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us tonight for another Moonbat edition of the broadcast. And we're going to be getting into quite a bit of news and information for you here tonight on this Wednesday into Thursday broadcast, April the 13th, 2011 into April 14th, 2011. So we're glad you could join us here tonight. And we will, we don't have a lot of news tonight. Oddly enough, it's kind of a slow news day, but we do have some important news to get into here tonight. Actually, I actually like it a lot better when there's not a big amount, but there's actually a few stories that are actually worth talking about. And it's amazing, just the span of time I can recall, even before I was on air, I can recall a span of time. I'd say over the past 7 or 8 years, it's amazing the gradual decline in the quality of the news that is coming out. It's really unbelievable how much of a jump in quality there's been in a lot of the stuff that's coming out. I mean, it progressively keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and that's one of the things that I noticed when I was making the Secret Right Volume 1, and I've noticed it a lot now working on Volume 2, and that's been just how intelligent the news actually used to be. I mean, when I'm going through all these new, the news archives, go through all these old news clips we have that are, it's going to be in the film. We have a lot of I can't even put it into words, man. We've got so many fucking mind-blowing clips from the news archives. I mean, if you thought the news archive clips that were in the Secret Right Volume 1 were bombshell, man, the ones in this one are just ridiculous. I mean, and I've talked about this before, but one of them is my favorite, where this NBC News clip where they're talking about the Jesuits. And I mean, it just lays out flat the whole thing with the Jesuits. And the first part of the film is going to get into the Jesuit order quite a bit. That's how the film will start. I feel it's important to kind of show people. It's very hard to do it very quickly, though. So I kind of have to leave it open-ended. I mean, if I were to try and lay out to people, the importance of and the connections to the Jesuits and the Jesuit order, all the rest of this stuff, I would. It would take hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of video to do. I mean, it's literally that much. So. I just tried to at least put, a little bit in there so people could maybe go research it more on their own, so they'll be able to see what they're involved in. But there's this clip where they say, if you plant a radical, you will harvest a Jesuit. And it's just so mind blowing. I mean, this clip was from like the early 1980s. I went, my God, that's one of the best statements I've ever heard that sums up Alex Jones in a nice little ball with a bow on top, doesn't it? I mean, if you plant a radical, you will harvest a Jesuit. Plant, meaning, two double meaning there. A planting in the ground and allowing to grow and blossom. And I think that's exactly what they've done with Alex Jones and with his connections to the Jesuit order. 7 Ways to Sunday, it would be very, very hard to deny that. So, but my point is that the news just was a lot more savvy 20, 30 years ago. So you can really tell when you go and you watch these news clips, you really get a good idea just how far reaching and just how far down the intelligence ladder we've come through the dumbing down and through the conditioning and the programming and the rest of it. It's staggering the levels in which we've been dumbed down. Just, since, I'm 34. So since I was a kid, since the 80s, from the 80s till now, the dumbing down and just taking the mindset and the intellectual level of the average person down to such a level now where, a low IQ people now in this world are more intelligent than 90% of the rest of the world, which has even lower IQ. You know what I mean? It's people of average. It's like it's just like that movie Idiocracy. It literally is that. This kind of a dumbass, not really a very intelligent guy goes into the future and things are so fucked up. They make him president and they think he's a fag because he's just talking like a regular guy because they've been dumbed down so much. We really are going there. So I would much rather see a few intelligent news stories on my plate than to have a whole big bunch of stuff. But we've got a bunch of very pertinent things tonight to talk about. So we will be getting into all that. We'd love to hear from you as well through the email at globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. If you have questions you'd like to have me address on air, if you have emails you'd like to address, I love getting emails and love to have some from you tonight. globalrealityshow@gmail.com. So please send those over tonight, and I'll be happy to answer some. I do have a few emails here, so I'll try to get into those for you on the broadcast as well tonight. We're also going to be continuing reading tonight where we left off last night. We started reading. We finished one chapter, started on the next one, and we're going to be starting there tonight out of William Bramley's Gods of Eden. What was the name of this chapter? I can't remember. It was something good, but anyway, we'll continue on with that. It was about the money, like the money masters type thing. Yeah, that's what it was. I think so. Yeah. Pretty long in involved chapter. We were live last night. In case we were really late. Well, I don't know if it was much later than this when we started last night, but a lot of people weren't around last night because we'd had some issues. We had I don't know. There has just been weird, negative energy and vibes going around lately everywhere. Everybody else feel that? So strange. You got to have your protection energy up really high right now because it just seems that there's negative energy trying to zap its way into people who have good energy. I just see that. It's very disheartening to see. But anyway, we had a monitor that's only like 7 or 8 months old that runs the network just completely go out yesterday for no apparent reason. It's just bizarre. So and just all, a bunch of other little things, but I don't know, man. This weird stuff, bad, dark energy. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's everywhere out there. Maybe it's just the dark Mordor of fucking Dallas over here. I don't know. I mean, we're smack dab on my God, we're on the 33rd parallel here, people. Jesus, you're right here on an energy vortex, man. They love us. Yeah. That's weird, Jerome, because I woke up this morning feeling like I had my energy drained. Yeah. That's bizarre. I felt the same way. I was just like, oh God. I just felt drained and like I felt like I had went on a bender last night or something. Hadn't drank a drop or anything, and I felt like I woke up. God damn, it's so strange. But anyway, I think there's some just nasty dark energy going around. And I see some people becoming susceptible to it, and it's bad to see that, and then it can transfer from if some person's carrying. I notice that people are carrying this stuff sometimes, sometimes people carry this stuff and it comes on them inadvertently, and then it passes on to somebody else inadvertently because they bring it around, and it's very real. And I think that again, that it when you are somebody that is aware of these things, it tries to zero in on you because it knows that you have a strong energy, and it wants to, and psychic vampirism and that whole thing is very real. And again, as I've said many times on this show, I can only really tell you 100% on things that I've experienced for myself. And one of the things I have experienced for myself many times, you'd be surprised how many of these there are out there, but fucking energy vampires, man. Energy vampires. They literally, and a lot of times, these people don't even know they're energy vampires. You guys ever notice that? Some of them, I think, are fully aware of what they are, and they exploit it and use it to their own advantage. No question. But I think there are some as well that just don't have any idea they're energy vampires, and they just suck people of their who are of positive energy and light dry because they don't have any energy of their own. They don't have any. They've used their, they have allowed life, the trappings of life, or the material things of life, or they've allowed themselves to be convinced that that living your life the way that everybody in the world tells you you're supposed to live it doesn't work for everybody. And those people that try to they really try to just conform and go along with living your life like everybody else says. The family and the 9-to-5 job and the regular normal life. People who inherently are not built for that kind of life, but allow themselves to succumb to it because of this illusion that that's what you're supposed to do. I find that oftentimes those types are some of the biggest energetic vampires because they have their energy sucked and drained dry, all week at their pathetic job they hate. So when they get around somebody who actually is emitting high energy and high beams of light, I feel that myself and a lot of people I know do. Sometimes there's a leeching effect there, and it can really drain you. I can spot them immediately. And if you ever walked into a room, let me tell you this, you'll think I'm really crazy. You ever walked into a room and spotted it and had your fucking hair on the back of your neck stand up because there's about 20 of them in the fucking room? You ever done that? I have, man. I've gone to the grocery store and shit, and there's energy, man. You feel them walking around, man. You just kind of got to put your head down and get your business done and get the fuck out of there. It's crazy. I mean, it just seems that people are being transformed into these energetic, vampiric slaves, zombies. It's really, man, it's fucking scary. I mean, I've just noticed every day, every week, and I've noticed this for the past year or so, that, every time, every week, it seems that people are progressively getting fucking weirder. It's just, I don't know, man. I know what it is. We all know what it is. And, as I talked about when we had William Henry on last week, he was talking about, the apocalypse in 2012 and all this stuff. And we were talking about ascension. And I noticed that maybe he hadn't gotten to that level in his research that I have, but I don't know, because it seemed like he did kind of agree with me, but he didn't really get what I was trying to say. But I think wholeheartedly that we have misinterpreted this idea of, some people will be raptured out and others will be believed to perish in a lake of fire. I don't really technically think it's going to be that cut and dry. I think it's more along the lines of the people who have eyes to see and the people who have woken up to realizing that they are enslaved in these material bodies and that we can break free of that will be the ones that arise, and the ones that just love the slavery and love being attached to these material meat suits won't perish in a lake of fire, but they'll be stuck, forever in that realm, in the realm of soul enslavement, soul entrapment, being trapped in material bodies forever. That's what I believe. That's what I believe the real interpretation of it is. At least that's what my research has showed me. But while we're on the subject of that, and again, globalrealityshow@gmail.com if you want to get any in tonight. what the fuck is the deal with Christians who think that me and my show and what I do is on their team? Can anybody answer me that? I mean, I thought, Jesus Christ, I've been on air for fucking damn near 4 years now, man. I was doing radio like 6 days a week for like 2 years of that. On every fucking network you can imagine, you know. Started out on TrueNet Radio, went to RBN, Public Broadcasting Network, was on We the People Radio Network, was on Oracle, helped start Oracle. Look, man, I mean, I found out about this secretive right-wing Christian, alleged Christian group, this priest class-owned group, the Council for National Policy, from former Canadian diplomat and Professor Peter Dale Scott. Had him on the show, third show I ever did. He talked about the CMP. I started looking into it, started finding out, oh, wow, look. All these people just happen to be involved in the Patriot movement, in the truth movement. And then, of course, that, you know, led me to making the film and being where I am now. So I've been very, very clear that Christianity is a creation of the priest class, which is the people who are essentially of these bloodlines, of these custodial races that seeded life on this planet through genetic manipulation of existing creatures, naturally indigenous earth-dwelling creatures, entrapped the soul in these bodies, and then started seeding us with culture and mythology and the rest of this stuff. And Judaism and Islam and Christianity, which originally were, you know, for a lot of these, originally were started with good purposes. They were started, but, I mean, it's been millennia since they were corrupted and brought into the power structure. It's literally been thousands of years. There is no person alive here on the planet today, and hasn't been a person alive on this planet for thousands of years, that could truly call themselves an adherent of any religion, be it Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever have you, and really be considered a follower of that religion, because the fact of the matter is, we don't have the whole story. We don't have all the information. So I know for a fact, and it is a fact, that religions were started by the custodial races, the custodial masters, to keep us dumbed down, ignorant of our true power, to plant us with the mythology and keep us obedient to them. I am non-negotiable on that. Have been non-negotiable on that for longer than I've even been able to define. You understand? I was this way before I ever had the information to back it up. I know that probably doesn't make any sense to you, but it's a fact. I've told this story just the other day. I mean, I knew these fucking churches and these people in these churches and these Christians. I knew they were fucking phonies when I was like 6, man. First time I ever stepped foot in a church, I went, oh, this does not feel good to me. This feels bad. This feels evil. This feels dirty. And I don't know what it is where people. My information is never anything that I ever put out, probably ever on this show, ladies and gentlemen. I would say that probably 98 or 99% of everything I ever put out on this show, you are not going to agree with if you are what you would call or consider yourself to be called a Christian. Because Christianity is not about truth. It's about hiding the truth. It's about lying. It's about giving half-truths. It's about not giving you the context. I, however, give you the context. We talk about the blanks, we fill in the blanks here. That's what we talk about. So that's the antithesis of everything that Christianity stands on. So, maybe you didn't get the memo, but my information and I, for that matter, but again, I really don't matter at all this. It's the information that matters. It pisses me off when people try to put the emphasis on me. The emphasis should never be on me. This is not about me ever. This is about the information. But people with their own egos try to inflate these false stories about me having an ego, and then they, try to use that to further their own cause or whatever. But it's just sad and pathetic to see because it's about the information. So let me just say this. I will continue to expose all the frauds of Christianity, all the frauds of all these custodial religions, all these myths. I'm not even one of those people that even says, there are a lot of people that say Jesus didn't exist. I'm not even one of those people. Because my information shows me that Jesus and Quetzalcoatl and Enki and Onas and Viracocha and Muhammad and Buddha and all these things, Zoroaster, are all different incarnations of Ea, who is trying to teach mankind in secret who we are, what we are, that we are spiritual entities enslaved in these material bodies. And they banished him, and they made him reincarnate here over and over and over. And each one of these incarnations is that original Ea energy, the soul of Ea, coming back in a different meat suit and trying to say to us, look, this is how it really is. So why should we like one of the other ones more than the other? Why should I like Muhammad more than I like Jesus? Why should I like Jesus more than I like Muhammad? Why should I like, Quetzalcoatl less than I like Viracocha? Whatever. It's all the same thing. These motherfuckers have got us so twisted and so bought into the lie that they have gotten us to wage endless war against each other in the name of fighting over what essentially amounts to the same goddamn thing. If we ever truly understand and realize our full spiritual potential, it's over for the elite. It already is in many ways because many of us are already starting to. But your spiritual salvation and things of like what I do or what a shaman does or whatever have you, it's just a guide, man. The second that it ever became, some figurehead being the only one that's, allowed the knowledge and then everybody gets the knowledge from him and, it's his hierarchy, that's when we were enslaved. That's when the priest class was born. The only role that truth tellers or people who put out information or, because, 200 years ago, somebody like me would have been, somebody standing up in some village on a rock, yelling knowledge. And if people gathered around and wanted to hear what he had to say, well, they did. If they didn't and called him a crank and a crazy old fucker and went back in their houses, well, that was fine. But that was, that's all anybody is ever, all we're supposed to do is on our own spiritual quest and our own spiritual journey, share that knowledge of the experience with others so that others may gain from it in their own journey and then pass that on and reciprocate that on. That is, to me, the definition of true religion, of true spirituality. That's the real definition of it. The only person that can give you a spiritual experience is yourself. Not a book, not a church, not a building, not a reverend, not a preacher, anything, not a priest. You are the only person that can give yourself a spiritual experience. And we all experience it in different ways, and that's what's great. And then when we share that with other people, then we're able to see and we go, oh, man, yeah. See, then you feel validated because you don't feel crazy anymore. You went, yeah, I've experienced the same thing. God, I thought I was the only person that ever felt like that. And you share that and you find out that, wait a minute, this is not some isolated thing. This is not just some random thing that happens to, certain people because they get into weird conspiracy information. No, this is a very valid, tangible, spiritual thing that every single person is capable of having, but we are programmed from day one to shut that off. never to be turned back on again. See, when we're young or we're kids, it's turned on. It's wide open. It's just, full crank blast. But everything from the time a child is, 1 or 2, after that, is just reinforcing, shutting that part of whatever that, that high voltage thing that's cranked on when we're born. The rest of it is just slowly programming to turn that off and to weaken the effect of that. That's why some kids come out and they're child prodigies and they can, like me, I was reading the newspaper when I was 3. I mean, for God's sakes, literally, my granddad told me I was reading, news stories out of the newspaper, like I'm reading out, on a news story now. That's the thing about it is that, but then slowly through the programming, we slowly weaken that, turn off. There are people that are born with enhanced psychic abilities at a very young age and then lose it. Same thing. We all have those abilities. We all have the ability to do that. But again, everything in our culture and religion and everything else, religion's the big one. Because that's the one that makes people turn that off, because they believe that if, they tell somebody that they have these, psychic powers or energetic powers, whatever they may be, that, there's some sort of heretic or something else of that nature. It's insane. So yeah, I mean, let me just make it crystal clear to all of you out there. I am here to expose the custodial masters and the people who run the planet, who are setting up this thing, trying to enslave us all and keep us in spiritual bondage. I am here to expose that. So I really am confused as to why, maybe you didn't get the memo. I'm confused as to why these Christians still try to, come in and say, oh, this, and that. They run these little, that's not true. This, they're only backup. Their only source to try and disprove what you're talking about is the Bible. Disqualified at the fucking door. Oh my God. It's so funny to me. I mean, you realize who that thing was written by. You realize the phony and the fraud of it, right? I mean, it's just, come with something other than the Bible, please. Oh, man. Crazy stuff. Let's see. So we got an email here tonight. Let's see. Watching, it says, here's one from Mitchell. Ancient aliens, watching the show is nuts. I know they don't always give all or totally accurate info, but why are they giving up what they do? It's like you said, a slow, steady program of desensitizing us to the idea of aliens. I have a 2 and a 7-year-old. Oldest talks about aliens all the time. Now, I mentioned your story about the vault in Roswell. And, man, it's in full swing. They never really talk about the inner earth, do they? No, they really don't. I was really shocked at these first couple of seasons of these ancient alien shows on History Channel, because, I mean, literally there was stuff in there about the Anunnaki and different things that I had talked about when I first got on air, late 2007, 2008. And at that time, everybody was doing shows about, Patriot stuff and Ron Paul and the Constitution and 9/11 truth. And it was all about, let's fight the UN and the Trans-Texas Corridor and all this horse shit. And I came out, all guns blazing, talking about secret societies and these custodial races and the Anunnaki. And it was just, people were like, I mean, literally laughing at me. I mean, it was a lot more brutal than it is now, where people have been accepting it. So when I saw that stuff first talked about on the History Channel, I was blown away. I was like, I literally got laughed off air a couple of years ago for talking about this, and now it's just on television. And I've got multiple theories about this. I think it's very possible at some point that they may use this whole Anunnaki thing and this whole custodial thing. I think they actually may come out with this. In a controlled way, that is. I think it's a very real possibility at some point they may verify all these things. Not all of them, but a lot of what we're talking about now, of course, leaving the stuff out about the Vatican and religion and and all the good parts. But I think there's a very real possibility that they may get on TV one day and just tell us, look, this is the way it is. This extraterrestrial race tinkered with our DNA. Science has, that answers hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of unanswered questions for science. And without even having to really bring religion into the mix, they can offer up this divide and conquer thing of saying, well, that means they could have, as some of these researchers have said, that means that they could have started religion too. And then they would say, oh, no, we don't have any evidence to back that up. And then, they could basically tell us, here, okay, well, this is what happened. This is how it is. Now, here's the bad news. The bad news is they want to start a war with us. And so this is, I got to tell you, the stuff that they're verifying now, and this new rash of extraterrestrial news that's been coming out, it's, they are really trying to get us acclimated for that, my friend. So I appreciate your email there. It really is ramping up. Wayne, here's one from Wayne. He says, just wanted to relay a thought on the experimental brain implants that you speak of occasionally on your show. Well, I have a story about that tonight as well, actually. I don't imagine the inventors want to talk about Dr. Warwick and his wife's possible complications that may have arisen. It reminds me of the plastic surgery in Brazil, if you've seen the movie. Yep. It also reminds me of the people who loved the idea of nuclear power. Not that it wouldn't have happened without them. It just seems like a rather large amount of the population readily buys whatever technology comes along, not giving it any serious thought. They were probably never capable of such and probably never will be. What will become of such, and should we concern ourselves? Such an uphill battle with these military-industrial fuckheads. Thanks for serving the dark side, morons. This time always think that they can petition the Lord and the government with an abundance of supplication. These people seem to love suffering more than anything, even more than they love making others suffer. Yeah, the energy vampires I was speaking of earlier. I just can't get over how many of them are acting like orcs in the Lord of the Rings. Yeah. That's been coming up a lot lately, yeah. They've been conditioned and taught and lied to and tricked into serving evil. That's what they've done. And we live in a dualistic realm, and it is possible for the dark and the light to exist all at once, and they most certainly do. But that's been the whole trick, is they've used the secret knowledge. The secret knowledge that in pieces the Freemasons had, and in pieces the Rosicrucians had, and in pieces other secret societies had. But they've used this for the purpose of negativity and evil only. Now, I challenge you to go anywhere and read any Masonic writings or any of the writings of the secret societies and find anything where they say that it's supposed to be used for evil. Because it's not there. I've done the research. Neither do they ever say that it's supposed to be used for good either. But what you find when you read these ancient texts is that it simply is dependent upon the user. So if you create an intelligentsia of religions where you absorb every religion into it, and then corrupt it and turn it into something that you want to serve your larger control mechanism, which is exactly what the Vatican has done. That's exactly what they did with the secret societies. They absorbed all of their knowledge and then gave the secret societies corrupted teachings. And now what we get if you become a Freemason or a Rosicrucian or anything else is a corrupted version of the original teachings. And so once they were able to do that, they were able to make sure that they got only their people in the chain of command in the secret societies. People they knew that were going to serve them and serve the agenda. Because before the Vatican took over Freemasonry, there were people in there who didn't have any interest in serving. In fact, there were many people who once they got in, defected once they found out that they were trying to set up a world order and all this stuff. I mean, go read John Robinson's Proofs of a Conspiracy. Was it 1832, something like that? Or maybe even before that, maybe 1700s. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, he got in there and saw what they were trying to do and didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I think that what we're starting to find more and more is that if we can get to the teachings, an uncorrupted version of these teachings, and learn how to use these for positive and not the negative, and for the light and not the dark, we can turn things around on this planet. And that's exactly what they don't want. And they know it's within our grasp now, and they are scared. And that's why they're ramping this shit up. Let's see what else we have here. I think it's all the emails we have. Had a few pertinent stories I wanted to get into. I'm trying to find the specific one here that I wanted to get into first tonight. Give me just a second to go through my stack. Oh, here we go. We've talked about the Earth losing its magnetic field, possible precursor to a pole shift. It is happening all around us. The dead birds, repainting of the lines on the airport in Florida. Article here from the Daily Mail. Role reversal. Is Europe about to move below Africa as direction of tectonic plates shift? Europe could be moving beneath Africa as the two continents shift closer together, scientists believe. Geologists say a pause in the movement between the two continents could mean the tectonic plates are about to change direction in what has been described as a scientifically fascinating development. The northern edge of the African tectonic plate has descended upon under Europe for millions of years, but recently this process halted, it has been reported. I've been noticing this over the past week or so. And it's odd because somebody had sent me an email a couple of weeks ago, and I hadn't heard from this person in a while. I hope they're still listening, or hope that they were indeed a genuine person. But that was just weird. I felt like I was being psychically attacked just then. So I was reading that. Ugh. Grab a crystal here. Wow. I told you, man, there's there is dark energy abounding. I've noticed over the past week or so, every time I get ready to every time I start doing a show, my voice starts sounding like it's going to go out. Have you guys noticed that? But when I'm not on air or anything, no problems. Over the past couple of weeks, I felt during some of the shows that I was under some sort of energetic psychic attack, and boy, I just felt it big time just then when I was reading that. Let's continue on here with the article. Scientists discussing the issue of the European Geosciences Union meeting last week said they thought Europe could be about to move under Africa. Well, if that's true, folks, and that means that the pole shift is underway, wouldn't you say? According to the BBC, this new development could herald the beginning of a rare and scientifically fascinating event of a new subduction zone. The dense rock at the far north of the African tectonic plate beneath the Mediterranean Sea has practically sunk under the Eurasian plate on which Europe sits. However, with a landmass that is too light, scientists do not believe that Africa will descend any further. Reinus Wortel at the University of Utrecht told BBC News that Africa won't sink, but Africa and Europe continue to move together. So where is this taken up? It looks possible that on the appropriate time scale, we are witnessing the beginning of subduction of Europe under Africa. The Utrecht Group's analysis of the Mediterranean Sea complex geological structure and history reveals that the continent's slow convergence of a few centimeters each year was partially obstructed by the collision of two plates further east in Turkey. And further subduction was prevented by the lightness of the African continent. Parts of the African plate that did subduct broke away and are now descending towards the Earth's mantle. Parts of the Eurasian plate have been pulled southwards across the Mediterranean to fill this gap, such as the Baltic Islands, Corsica, and Sardinia. The same thing is also happening with Crete. Well, that's interesting, because that's where they said that they wrote the book of Revelation at, was in Crete. Don't you think it's a little coincidental? Scientist research, which has included the observation of recent earthquakes, suggests that the end result could be beginning of a new subduction moving in the opposite direction. Professor Wardle added that when we see what motion occurs in the earthquakes, and we see that the fault planes dip towards the south. So, I mean, my goodness, definite pole shift type of thing there. Points more in that direction, more and more, especially with the magnetic field stuff that's been going on, the dead birds. And we very well could be going through a major pole shift. I'll tell you this, they would never tell us. You understand that, right? Here's if they ever get on TV and tell you the world's coming to an end, you need to know that they're trying to make it happen that way or stage it that way. They're never going to tell you. They could know the world was going to end 20 minutes from now. You'd never hear about it. It'd be over. We'd never know. We'd just all be dead. They don't have any plans on letting us know ahead of time when they're going to pull the plug, because they don't have any plans on us being able to try and stop them beforehand. All right, let's see what else we have here. Oh, listen to this. I mean, it's just me, or every week now, I swear to God, I feel like I'm in fucking Groundhog Day. Two of these stories I have here, and those of you who listen to the show frequently and regularly will back me up on this and know this for a fact. Why is it that we've had every week, man, for the past, I don't know, month or 2 months or 3 months, we've had at least two stories a day about where possible alien life could be living somewhere in some other part of the universe. And as our listener had sent in the email earlier, some article about the new technology brain implant that we're going to have. We already had one this week. We had all these new things coming out. Now, again, this out of the Daily Mail. Could aliens be living on planets deep within black holes? I thought nothing could exist inside of a black hole. Well, so the aliens are hiding out in the black holes now? Okay, I got to hear this. Colonies of aliens living on planets within black holes may not be as far-fetched as it sounds. Well, please enlighten me. Some black holes have a complex internal structure that allows photons, particles, and planets to orbit a central singularity, according to one scientist. Well, anybody else with me knows all of a sudden, too, they're trying to change everything that we've ever known about science. All of a sudden, well, it could be possible, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it could be possible if it possibly fits your possible scenario and the cover story for your possible scenario. If it possibly covers that, then yeah, I guess it is possible, isn't it, Jack? A singularity is the region in a black hole when space and time become infinite. However, Professor Yachivi Dulkovec claims that at the center of certain black holes and under the right conditions is an area where the fabric of space and time exists once more. If a charged and rotating black hole is large enough, he said, it can weaken the tidal forces that are beyond the event horizon, the point where nothing, not even light, can escape a black hole's gravity. Scientists have long known that photons can survive in stable periodic orbits, such as the inside of a charged black hole. Oh, they've known that for some period of time. Great. Well, how come you just said that we never knew that before? They always tell us black holes are, they suck in everything, including light. Now you're trying to change it around and say, oh no, well, we know we might be able to exist on the outside perimeter of a black hole. Well, And I say you try to challenge, you're changing that all of a sudden. Fucking ridiculous. Let's get into this other brain scan article. Might as well, right? We got one every fucking day now. The end of dialing. Yay. Hey, we just made it easy for you lazy motherfuckers. You don't even have to use the goddamn keypad anymore. We're going to jack this shit straight into your brain, motherfucker. Oh my God. You won't have to fucking change the channel with a remote control anymore. You'll do it with your brain. You won't even have to stroke your own cock using your hand anymore. You'll be able to do it with just your brain. All you need is the implant. Steve Jobs will be coming out with those this year. They're going to be hot on your Christmas list. You won't be able to get one unless you camp out at Walmart for 2 weeks. Just to let you know. It seems that even dialing a mobile number is becoming too time-consuming for our fast-paced, time-precious society. But researchers in America have come up with a solution. A mobile phone which uses the power of thought to make a call. And you do not have to lift a finger. Give it to me. Hey, man, can I call Domino's, that motherfucker? Shit. I don't even have to get up on the couch now to call Domino's. I call Domino's in my mind, man. Look at that shit. I'm still going to kick that driver's ass. He don't get here in 30 minutes, though. You feel me? Oh, man. The technology works by responding to cues from the brain, and experts believe anyone with training will be able to master the technique. Yeah, jack it into your brain. We need technology jacked into our brain. We need microchips. We need to enhance ourselves. Yes. Enhance ourselves with self-replicating machines so we can become immortal and we never die, and so we can keep these souls. See, because that's what they'll do. They'll breed us in the labs. They'll sterilize everybody else in the general population. They'll breed us in labs. And then after they breed us in labs, then they'll retrofit us once we get to a certain age with the technology, the self-replicating technology, and then they've got it. Then from that point on, the soul enslavement machine will go on unimpeded. Because they will be able to trap souls in material bodies and make it to where the material bodies never die. This is the whole plan of the transhumanist movement. You understand that, right? This is not a joke. These guys really seriously are planning on doing this. Oh, man, I want to get through all this news tonight. We've been going here for about, almost an hour already, 50 minutes. Well, we'll get through the news in this section, and then we'll take a break, and we'll come back and get into Bramley tonight. I saw this one today. Possible blood sacrifice at Yale, of all places. Not hard to believe there, I guess. Young girl. I mean, this girl didn't look like she could be older than 18 or 19. I don't know. But this is just weird. And, I read all through this article, and maybe, this could be something chalked up to an accident, but I don't know, man. This sounds like some shit out of Final Destination or some shit. It just sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie, out of a horror flick, because there were no witnesses to this. But they're saying that this Michelle Dufault, an astronomy and physics major from Massachusetts at Yale, died last night in an accident in Sterling Chemistry Laboratory. University President Richard Levin confirmed in a campus-wide email at 5:30 p.m. Wednesday. An autopsy was conducted at the Connecticut Office of Chief Medical Examiner in Farmington Wednesday and determined that Dufault died from an accidental asphyxia due to neck compression. While working in the laboratory's machine shop, Michelle's hair got caught in one of the shop's wood lathes. Levin wrote in the email, a lathe is a large machine used in woodworking and metalworking that molds objects through the use of a rotating mechanism. Now here's where it gets weird. Other students working in the building found Dufault's body and called the police. So there were no witnesses to this. What was yesterday's date? The 13th. So what, 4/13/11? I'll let you do the math and the numerology on that out there, folks. It's fucking Yale, man. Sounds like they got their blood sacrifice of the year right there. If you ask me, something just is weird about this. You know what I mean? You know how sometimes you just read something and you just know there was foul play, something afoot. It's definitely one of those for me. Definitely one of those for me. Gold prices to strike above 1,600 this year. I told you 2 years ago when it gets to 1,500 to sell, 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 sell. Get the fuck out of that gold. They're going to tank it, y'all. They're going to tank it. And then all those worthless Federal Reserve notes you had invested in that stuff are going to be gone. And you could have had all that money out and been using it for something now. You could have been using it to buy, you can build, you can create yourself a bug out backpack, have everything on it you need to survive for a great period of time for like $100. You know that? I mean, there are little things. Nobody's telling you, nobody's asking you to stock up on weapons and the oh shit bunker or anything else like that, you know. But you can do little things that may help you out in the near future. I'm telling you guys, they've done this before. They're going to do it again. They're doing the same thing with silver to the Patriot Movement, Truth Movement, that the goddamn Hunt Oil brothers here in Dallas did back in the 80s to their John Birch Society cronies who were the Patriot Movement then. Got everybody into silver, then tanked that shit. And then people in the Patriot Movement now believe the Hunts were heroes. It's unbelievable to me, the fucking Orwellian doublethink of that. The Hunts being heroes? They took a fall, intentionally lost $1 billion. It didn't even affect their solvency. They did that so they could change the laws to give them more control, more power. Can't you see this? All the Hunts were Sovereign Military Order Malta members. Wake up. They want you in this so you will commit modern day alchemy for them. They cannot change their worthless paper money into hard, tangible metals. If they do it, they get caught. But what can they do? Through their system, they create this inflation, this phony inflation. They create the recession. They create the depression. They use their priest class owned mouthpieces like Alex Jones and Glenn Beck and others to fearmonger and shill this stuff. They get you to buy it. They get you to turn your illusionary. And the only thing that gives the money or any of this stuff value is our minds, is our belief we put in it. So they convince us the money's not worth anything, but the gold is. So we transfer one illusion over to another for them. You understand? We're transferring their illusion they created into something real. They cannot take this. I don't know why people can't wrap their minds around this. You have a stack of paper dollars. They aren't worth anything. This is going to tie into what we're going to be continuing to talk about tonight in William Bramley's book. But then you have gold, which is worth something to everyone in the world. It's always been the mark of value. And what do they get us to do? They change their worthless paper money that they created, that they made us indentured servants to earn. We exchange that for gold. We just have in our possession now turned that physical worthless money into a real, tangible, valuable thing. So then they can do one of two things. They can either cause it to be illegal and round it up like they've already done once in this country, or what I think more aptly what they're going to do is they're going to raise the value of it way up, get everybody to exchange their worthless Federal Reserve notes in for it under the illusion that it's going to give them safety. Then they're going to tank it. And when they tank it, people will be selling gold bars for $1.50 a piece just to get out of it, just to have a loaf of bread, just to eat, just to have a spot in the FEMA camp. This is how they're going to do it. This is how they're going to transfer everything that we put value on and what gives individuals and groups and countries power into the hands of one group. And then they're probably just going to give it all to the aliens and say, ha, fuck you, have fun, fuckers. We're taking it back to the Bureau. Nano, nano. I don't know. It's all up in the air at this point. I do have one more bit of important news tonight. More thing I need to get in. I don't really want to talk about. I'll talk about, if you don't know what BRICS is, the BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They're having a meeting tomorrow. Leaders of the world's major emerging powers set to meet Thursday in China at a summit expected to tackle the conflict in Libya and reform the international financial system. This is the formation of a new global superpower, and one of the groups that's going to be at the head of the coming World War III scenario. So if you don't know who they are, look that up. I just don't feel like talking about it tonight. I'm done with this goddamn news. Done with it. We're going to take a extended break here, and then we're going to come back and read from Bramley tonight. Please support our work if you can at the website where this broadcast originates from. That is www.theglobalreality.com. And you can use the chip-in banner there for the bills for the month. You can use the donate button if you want to contribute. We're so close now. We're sending a tentative release date for the Secret Volume 2, May 5th, 5/5/11, coming up. And I hope to have it done by then. We're about $600 down. If anybody can help us out, use the donate button and get that amount in here. I'd like to get in here immediately so we can get this done and stay on this course. We're going to have the film out for you by 5/5/11. So please use the donate button if you can help us out there in any amount. So back here with you on the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight for this Moonbat edition of the broadcast. We're going to be continuing our reading tonight from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. We left off last night in the middle of a chapter, so we're going to be continuing on there for you here tonight. So definitely strap in, make some coffee, and get ready for this. Hopefully we'll be able to get through this chapter tonight. If you didn't hear last night's show, the Tuesday night show, definitely tune into that. Where we left off last night was this analogy about the chicken farmer and the analogy about, basically how the monetary system works. And so I'll back up a little bit just to give you a little context of what we were talking about here. The chicken farmer has a big family get-together coming up, and he wants to impress his in-laws for once by putting on an opulent feast. Down to the market he goes, where he writes notes for chickens not yet hatched and stocks up with an abundance of goods from other merchants. Several things can now happen. The chicken farmer will get away with it if he is able to meet the demand for chickens when his notes come in for redemption. Another thing that may and often will occur is that he has so saturated the marketplace with his chicken notes that most people just do not want any more of them. So he must offer even more hens for each trade to make people feel it is worth their while. He is now writing notes for 2 or 3 chickens in exchange for items which he previously only had to issue single chicken notes. As these chicken notes circulate, they become less and less valuable because there are so many of them. A vicious spiral ensues. The more notes the chicken farmer issues, the less valuable they become, and the more he has to issue in order to get what he wants. This is known as inflation. Now comes the worst part. With more and more notes outstanding, an increasing number of notes will start coming in for redemption. Soon the farmer will see that his true wealth, which is his supply of chickens, is becoming rapidly depleted, even though only a small portion of his outstanding notes have come back. To preserve his chickens, he must decrease the value of his notes by declaring that the outstanding notes are now only good for half of what they say. This is called devaluation. Since the farmer may find it difficult to admit that he had issued many more notes than he had chickens, he may try to save his reputation by lying, such as by saying that a fierce chicken plague has wiped out half of his stock. That will probably not prevent him from becoming very unpopular. Public faith in his notes will be destroyed, and he will either have to revert back to straight barter, or else he will need to acquire someone else's notes in order to continue trading in the market. So this picks up where we left off last night. As we can see, paper notes or money are rooted in actual commodities and are meant to be an expression that the creator of the notes has something valuable to trade. In contrast to notes are coins, which function somewhat differently. Metals have always been considered valuable, and so pieces of metal were convenient trading tools. Metal pieces were imprinted with various designs, thereby becoming coins, and their metallic purity was guaranteed by the imprinter. Coin values were initially determined by the quantity and purity of the metal contained within the coins. Gold was a rare and more popular metal, So coins made from gold were more expensive and had a higher barter value than, for instance, copper coins. Metal coins became a popular tool for barter because they were durable and quantities could be controlled. They did create some problems, however. Realistically, people were only trading pieces of metal for other goods. This created a disproportionate emphasis on metals. The acquisition of coins and coin metals became an obsession to a great many people, and such obsessions tend to drain away energy better spent producing other valuable goods and services. This system also gave a disproportionate amount of power to those who possessed large quantities of coined metals, even though other commodities such as food are ultimately more valuable. The person with the coined metals could immediately acquire any good or service, but a farmer first had to go through the intermediate step of exchanging his product for a coin or metal before he could have the same spending flexibility. Coin metals merged with paper notes to create the foundation of our modern monetary system in the 1600s. Those who laid this foundation were reportedly the goldsmiths. Goldsmiths usually owned the strongest safes and lockboxes in town. For this reason, many people deposited their coin metals with the smiths for safekeeping. The smiths issued receipts to the depositors that promised to pay to the receipt holders on demand those quantities of gold or silver shown on the receipts. Each such receipt was actually a note which could be circulated as money until a holder of the note went back to the goldsmith to redeem it for the specified amount of metal. The goldsmiths made an important discovery. Under normal circumstances, only about 10% to 20% of their receipts ever came back for redemption at any given time. The rest circulated in the community as money, and for good reason. Paper was easier to carry than bulky coin, and people felt safer holding receipts in lieu of actual gold and silver. The smiths realized they could lend out the unredeemed metals and charge interest, and thereby earn money as lenders. In making such a loan, however, the smith would try to convince the borrower to accept the loan in the form of a receipt instead of actual metal. The borrower could then circulate that note as money. As we can see, the goldsmith has now created money, his receipts, for double the actual quantity of metal he has in his safe. First to the original depositor and then to a borrower. The goldsmith did not even own the metal in his safe, yet by simply writing upon a piece of paper, someone now owes him money up to the full value of the gold in his safe. The smith could continue writing his notes as long as the notes coming in for redemption did not exceed his actual deposits of precious metals. Typically, a smith would issue notes for 4 to 5 times in excess of his actual supply of gold. As profitable as this operation may have been, there were some pitfalls. If too many of the goldsmith's notes came back for redemption too rapidly, or the smith's borrowers were slow to repay, the smith would be wiped out. The credibility of his notes would be destroyed. If the smith ran his operation cautiously, however, he could become quite wealthy without ever producing anything of value. Right, and this is where we enter the Jew bankers, I suppose. Right? They had to become stingy with their gold so they could gain power. And that's how the stereotype came in, right? That's what I'm guessing. I'm sorry. The shit's just ridiculous, and I have to laugh sometimes. I apologize. It's just stupid. The injustice of this system is obvious. If for every sack of gold the smith had on deposit, people now owed him the equivalent of 4 sacks, someone has to lose. As public debt to the goldsmith increased, more and more true wealth and resources were owed to him. Since the goldsmith was not producing any true wealth or resources, but was demanding an ever-increasing share of them because of his paper notes, he easily became a parasite upon the economy. Which is exactly why the Vatican found out about that same racket that the Templars were running and said, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to claim that what they're doing is against Jesus and against the church. We'll say that they're heretics. We'll kill them all. We'll take their knowledge. We'll take their riches. And we'll continue that power. We'll continue on what they've done. Except what we'll do is It's we'll put the Jews in charge of it since everybody believes that the Jews killed Jesus. We'll put the Jews in charge of our money and in charge of this racket that the Templars created on behalf of the church to take over the whole world. And if anybody gets too close to trying to figure out what it is, well, we'll just blame it on our Jew bankers that we put out there in front. And then, we got plausible deniability. That about brings us up to date. I mean, seriously. The inevitable result was the enrichment of the careful goldsmith turned banker at the cost of the impoverishment of other people in the community. That impoverishment was manifested either in the people's need to give up things of value or in their need to toil longer to create the wealth needed to repay the banker. If the goldsmith was not careful and his monetary bubble burst, the people around him suffered anyway due to the disruption caused by the collapse of his bank and the loss of the value of his notes still in circulation. Such was the birth of modern banking. Many people feel that it is an inherently dishonest system, and it is. It is also socially and economically destabilizing, yet all of the world's major monetary and banking systems today operate on a close variation of the system I just described. By the 17th century, the Medici banking house of Italy had come up with the idea of using gold as the commodity upon which to base all paper currency. I said papal currency. Well, I guess I wasn't wrong now, was I, boy? Hell no. Papal currency. That's what we're calling it from now on. That's going to be our new meme. The meme of the week. Yeah, there it is. I'm not calling it paper currency, man. It's papal currency. Fuck yeah, dude. Put it on the board. Put that motherfucker on the board. That's going on the board. That's a new one. Papal currency. Hey, man, got any of that papal currency going around? No, man, I don't believe in that papal currency, man. That shit's just an illusion anyway, bro. It's good stuff. Papal currency. That's what we're calling it from now on. I'm sorry, I'm out of control. Let me continue here. I got to figure out where I left off at. Gold was touted as the perfect basis for paper notes because of the scarcity of the desirability of gold. This was the beginning of the gold standard, in which all other goods and services are valued in relation to gold and sometimes silver. The gold standard was certainly a terrific idea for those people who own plenty of gold and silver, but it created an artificial reliance on a commodity that is not nearly as useful as many other products. To base an entire monetary system on a single commodity is better than basing it upon no commodities at all, but even under a gold standard, paper notes will far exceed the metals used to back the notes. The best solution is to root a money supply firmly in a nation's entire valuable output, so that the money acts as an accurate reflection of that output. Once the gold standard was created, paper notes were thought to be as good as gold. Now you see why these ass clown fucking priest-classed Jesuit fucking Catholic-owned shills like Ron Paul and others tell, we need to go back to the gold standard. Let's go back to that what the Anunnaki created. Let's go back to that. The gold standard was created by God. Makes me want to puke. Sick fucks. I'm glad I never gave any fucking money to Ron Paul. My God. Fuck that guy right in his dirty shithole. Fuck him and his whole goddamn Masonic fucking Catholic family. Once the gold standard was created, paper notes were thought to be as good as gold because people could redeem the notes for actual gold. This created a false sense of security. As more and more gold notes entered the market, they gradually became worth less and less, resulting in a steady inflation. The gold owners and bankers had to stop issuing a constant stream of notes because that is how they earned their profits. As long as the bankers planned carefully and people retained their faith in the notes, the note writers could stay ahead of the inevitable inflation they created and make an enormous profit off of it. If, on the other hand, they issued an overabundance and too many of their notes came back for redemption, they could, as a last resort, devalue the notes to save their gold. In this fashion, inflatable paper money, even under a gold standard, became a source of wealth and power to those entitled to create the money. Boom. Again, one of the other million reasons why the Truth and Patriot movement, at large have just ignored this book, ignored this work. It also generated indebtedness on an enormous scale because most of the created out of nothing gold notes were released into the community as loans repayable to the bankers. If people did not borrow from the bankers, little new money would enter the market and the economy would slow down. This method of creating money clearly destroyed the true purpose of money, to represent the existence of actual tradable commodities. Inflatable paper money allows a handful of people to absorb and manipulate a great deal of true wealth, which are the valuable goods and services people produce. Simply through the act of printing paper and then slowly destroying the value of that paper with inflation, it causes money to become its own commodity, which can be manipulated on its own terms, usually to the detriment of the production and barter system. Money was meant to assist that system, not to dominate and control it. The inflatable paper money system described above was the new science of money being installed by Brotherhood revolutionaries. An early version of the system was established in Holland in 1609. That was the year in which the Dutch and Spanish forces signed a truce suspending the hostilities of the 80 Years' War. The truce marked the birth of the independent Dutch Republic and the founding of the Bank of Amsterdam in the same year. The privately owned Bank of Amsterdam operated on the inflatable paper money system described above. It was run by a group of financiers who pooled some of their precious metals to form the asset base of the bank. By prior agreement with the new Dutch government, the bank helped Dutch forces resume the wars against Spain by issuing notes 4 times in excess of the bank's asset base. The Dutch magistrates were then able to draw out 3/4 of the quote-unquote created out of nothing money to finance the conflict. This reveals the primary reason why the inflatable paper money system was created. Listen closely, ladies and gentlemen. It enables nations to fight and prolong their wars. It also makes the human struggle for physical existence in a modern economy more difficult due to the massive debt and parasitic absorption of wealth that the system causes. You start to understand what's going on in the United States now? They are using this deflationary, phony economic system that they're forcing us all into to fund and continue their wars while they simultaneously bring down our country and bring down all countries and bring down people to a more controllable level. Can't you see this? Don't you care? TV and Hot Pockets and video games and getting drunk and banging prostitutes, that's all gone if you don't understand this. Got me? This is so key to understand. This is the essence of everything. This is how they've gotten us. That's everything. 9/11 is such a distraction. It's just one of those things that they did to bring this along. This slow and steady, sustained 9/11 was the reason they called it ground zero, folks. Well, on top of the fact that they probably used some sort of nuclear weapon there, but that's neither here nor there. It's because it was the epicenter, folks. It was the first shot heard around the world in this sustained warfare and sustained bombardment that has been executed through the monetary system against all peoples of the world. It's been a slow downhill climb since then. Furthermore, steady inflation reduces the value of people's money so that their accumulated wealth is gradually eroded. The custodial aims expressed in the Garden of Eden and the Tower of Babel stories were greatly furthered by the new paper money system. The initial success of the Bank of Amsterdam encouraged similar banking arrangements in other nations. The most notable offspring was the Bank of England, founded in 1694. The Bank of England established the pattern for our modern-day central banks by refining the inflatable paper money system of Holland. The Bank of England system was subsequently spread from nation to nation, often on the backs of revolutions led by prominent Brotherhood Network members. That's a key piece of info. That's exactly what they're trying to do right now. The Bank of England system was subsequently spread from nation to nation, often on the backs of revolutions led by prominent Brotherhood Network members. They're trying to set up a new monetary system in the United States, and they're going to use these gold hucksters to use it and sell it on the back of this phony revolution. It's going on right now. They're trying to do it right now. The worldwide Reformation announced in the Fama Fraternis was well underway by the end of the 17th century, and the new money was a big part of it, as we shall see more later. So there you go. That's the end of chapter 21. The next chapter is 22. Chapter 22, Marching Saints. Let me see how long this chapter is so I can make a decision. Let's see. It's really not that long of a chapter. Let's see here. Let's go to the chat room. Chat room, what do you think? Let's get a vote here. Do we end the show right there? Press 1 in the chat room if you say that we end the show right there and pick up on the next chapter tomorrow night. Press 2 if you think we should take a break, come back, and get into the next chapter tonight. So I'm looking for 1s and 2s. One if you want to end the show there and we come back tomorrow and do it, or and not take a break, or we take a break and we come back and read that chapter again. So 2 if you think that. All right, well that's 5 for 2, 6 for 2. All right, I get the picture. All right, cool. Hey, you can't vote twice. Astro Rodeo, I know who you are. No voting twice. Okay. All right, so that's what we're gonna do then. All right, cool. I just just gotta take a little breather and get a little drink. But it's something long of a chapter, so we can get through it probably another 15, 20 minutes. So might as well do it. I want to get through as much of the book as we can before we have Mr. Bramley on with us. That's next Monday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I believe, and we'll have him on with us. So definitely stick around. This is the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. We're going to be back here in just a few minutes with another chapter from William Bramley tonight. So flap your... All right, back here with you on the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight. Late Night Moonbat Edition. We're going into super early late night Moonbat hours now. Oh, yeah. We're getting real late. We're going to get hot and sexy. We're going to talk about aliens and custodial races in the priest class. Yeah, it's going to be hot. Get it all looped up. Yeah. I'd love to hear that. Somebody should start a show where they just read ancient sacred texts and some retarded phone sex voice. I would tune into that. I would listen to that. That's just because it beats most everything else that's on information radio. God damn, I used to love the format. I can't fucking listen to it anymore. God damn, I listen to about 10, 15 minutes of these clowns. I don't really care who it is. Lee Rogers is the only exception there, but my God, everybody else is just like, I listen to like 10, 15 minutes of that shit, man. And it's just like 10, 15 minutes in, you just hear, disinfo or bad info or wrong info, just straight out of the gates everywhere. I'm glad people are out there wanting to, do radio shows and stuff. But look, man, for me, I was, God, how long? I was a good 12 years into my research before I ever went on air. or even, was a public figure or anything of that nature. That's the only reason I ever wanted to do a radio show, because I felt like, I had things that weren't being put out there. But some of these people, man, I understand they're trying to do something, and I applaud them for trying to do something. It's better than doing nothing. But sometimes, man, it's just like, God, there's just some blatantly bad. And really what it boils down to is it's just people repeating bad information they've heard from people who they think are credible sources, And most of the time, people just regurgitate things they heard in the Truth Movement, Patriot Movement circles. And that's why it's so difficult for some people to listen to this show, because then when they don't hear me regurgitate or buy into the shit that a lot of these guys are selling, then they think that, they think the information's not correct. It's just crazy. Anyway, let's continue on here tonight. Chapter 22 from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden, Marching Saints. Should be able to get through this chapter here tonight, hopefully. One of the most important leaders of the Reformation was John Calvin. Calvin was only 10 years old when Luther broke from the Catholic Church, but as an adult, Calvin became one of Protestantism's most zealous advocates. Calvin published his first religious tract in 1536 in Basel, Switzerland, a city by the Swiss-German border. Calvin spent his adult life writing and teaching his own unique interpretations of Protestant doctrine. The result was the creation of a Protestant denomination named after him, Calvinism, which was headquartered in Geneva. Consequently, as we just read in the last chapter, also where they ended up setting up, all the Swiss banks. No coincidence there. Calvin continued in the mystical vein of Martin Luther, as we recall. Luther said that the spiritual salvation was not something that a human being could achieve through his or her own labors. Wrong. Thanks for playing. Instead, salvation required an act of belief. The same idea was promulgated by Calvin, but with a harder twist. According to Calvin's doctrine, not even an act of faith or belief would ensure a person's spiritual survival. Calvin proclaimed instead that a person's spiritual salvation, or lack of it, was already predetermined before birth by God. Not only had God decided in advance who would achieve spiritual salvation and who would not, but there was absolutely nothing a person could do about God's decision. This unhappy doctrine is known as predestination. Calvin's predestination teachings offered people little comfort because they had stressed that most human beings were spiritually condemned. Those humans favored by God before birth were known as the elect. The elect were few in number and could do nothing to share their good fortune with others. The elect had only one real duty on earth, proclaimed Calvin, and this was to suppress the sin of others as a service to God. Calvin, of course, was one of the elect. One might ask, why would God condemn nearly every soul before birth and then continue to punish them after birth? It seems rather cruel. According to Calvin, the human race was still being punished for the original sin of Adam and Eve. As we recall, the original sin was early man's attempt to gain knowledge of ethics and spiritual immortality. Calvin did not attempt to justify predestination despite its obvious unfairness. He preached instead that predestination was a mystery to which all people should be humbled. Many things of God were never meant to be understood by human beings, he said. Calvinism was more than a Sunday religion. It was a way of life. It demanded of its adherents a pragmatic and austere lifestyle in which a person's highest duty was to glorify God in his or her daily actions. People were taught that their positions in life, no matter what those positions happen to be, were their callings by God. A life should be lived as though it were a supreme being's will that a person was where he or she was. Calvinism was clearly a philosophy of feudalism for the modern age. On religious grounds, Calvin forbade drunkenness, gambling, dancing, and singing flippant tunes. Those were among the sins that the elect had been put on earth to stamp out. To no one's surprise, Calvinists quickly developed a reputation for being dour and colorless. Yeah, fucking sourpusses. Lamos. They also grew violent. Calvin was not a man of tolerance, and he adopted some of the vicious practices of the East Roman emperors. For example, Calvin encouraged the death penalty for heresy against his new doctrines, and he demanded that witches be burned to death at the stake. Calvinism traveled from its stronghold to Switzerland to other countries. In the Netherlands, Calvinists had played a very large role in agitating and bringing about the 80 Years' War, which gave us the Bank of Amsterdam. In Great Britain, Calvinism was the basis of the Puritan religion. Like their Calvinist brethren in Holland, some English Puritans decided to assert their gloomy beliefs and material self-interest through violent revolution. In the year 1642, a group of wealthy and prominent British Puritans led a full-scale civil war against the English King Charles I. In Puritan eyes, Charles had committed crimes against God by marrying a Catholic and by being tolerant of Catholicism. After winning the Civil War and beheading Charles, the victorious Puritan armies placed their own dictator in charge of Britain, Oliver Cromwell. Under Cromwell, the Puritans were able to assert their religious beliefs into the arena of foreign policy. English Puritans believed strongly in the concept of Armageddon. Folks, my family goes all the way back to the Puritans, folks, all the way back to the Mayflower, folks. Yeah, my distant relatives go all the way back to that, folks. Yeah, that's true. I mean, seriously, that Ascalon Jones has said that before. So yeah. That's some great heritage you got there, Bubba. Puritans believe strongly in the concept of Armageddon, the final battle. They believe that the great final battle. They believed that the final battle had begun and would climax in the later 17th century. Yes, climax. Oh, yeah, that's what we like. We like words like that. And that the Puritans' civil war against Charles I was part of that battle. The Pope was labeled the Antichrist, and Catholicism was considered Satan's tool. Well, it'd be hard for me to argue with that, except I don't believe in Satan either. Another one of their fucking priest class. Oh, Satan, yes, you're going to go down to hell, and you're going to have to suck Satan's cock for eternity if you don't believe in Jesus. Jesus cannot save you. Only I can save you. I am the Dark Lord Satan. Suck my cock, bitch. The Pope was labeled the Antichrist, and Catholicism was considered Satan's tool. Cromwell tried to shape English foreign policy around these beliefs by working to solidify international Protestant unity and by waging war against Catholics in various parts of Europe. Cromwell believed that the English Puritans were God's second chosen people and that his actions were all a part of biblical prophecy. Calvinist cosmology did much to shape Puritan ideas about war. Engaging in war was glorified. The Puritans believed that the tension and struggle were permanent elements of the cosmic scheme because of the internal battle between God and Satan. Professor Michael Walzer, in his intriguing book, Revolution of the Saints, a study of the origins of radical politics, explains their belief this way. As there is permanent opposition and conflict in the cosmos, so is there permanent warfare on earth. This tension was itself an aspect of salvation. A man at ease was a man lost. It is vital to understand this Puritan idea because it exalts war as a necessary step to spiritual salvation. It was also one of the seeds which gave us the Marxist philosophy of dialectical materialism. This Puritan belief is one of the most pernicious ideas ever taught by the custodial religions. It caused Puritans to view peace as an affront to God because peace meant that the struggle against Satan had ceased. How ridiculous is that? The world's peace is the keenest war against God, wrote Thomas Taylor in 1630. The highest calling of a Puritan man was to march off to war for the glory of God. When there were, heaven forbid, no wars in progress, men were encouraged to attend military drills for recreation. Nothing's really changed. Oh, there ain't no war going on. Let's have some war games. Yeah. Well, there ain't no war, but let's have some war games because we do got a war. Let's get ready for it. I'll be a war eventually. I ain't one right now, but hell, there'll be one pretty soon. Let's have some war games. Let's train for it. Sir, we've stamped out all war. There is no more war on Earth. Well, you know, in case there is, well, we'll be ready for it. And in religious aspects, since every man will have recreations, that be best which is freest from sin, that best which strengthen a man, then abandon your carding, dicing, chambering, wantonness, dalliance, scurrilous, discoursing in vain, reveling out of time to frequent these exercises or these military drills. I get the sneaking suspicion that William Bramley might be just a little bit anti-war. Maybe just as with good reason. I am as well, but I think that's the big thesis. I think that's his big thesis is, you know, well, I think in fact I think I've heard him say that too. That's the whole reason he got into this was trying to prove where trying to disprove the idea that war is a necessary part of the human existence. And I would say that this is one of the best, if not the best, pieces of work that just wholeheartedly proves that that's a complete falsehood, a complete lie, something forced upon us. The Puritans' embodiment of war, coupled with their austere pragmatism, helped bring about major changes in the manner of fighting wars. Generations earlier, the Renaissance had a very interesting effect on warfare in Europe. War had become a gentleman's activity, ornate and full of bluster. European rulers expanded considerable sums of money to create aesthetic and colorful armies. Bright uniforms, flapping banners, and fancy armor were the order of the day. Significantly, pageantry replaced combat on the battlefield. More often than not, the dazzling Renaissance armies engaged in endless maneuverings against one another with little actual contact. After a great deal of pomp and show, a military stalemate would often occur, followed by an elegant cavalry maneuver known as the caracole. Each side would then declare itself the winner with a few or no casualties and march colorfully home in the adulation of its people. Young male soldiers survived to quicken their lovers' pulses with noble tales of gallantry and honor in the field. In today's jaded, ultra-pragmatic world, the above activity might seem rather silly, like something from The Wizard of Oz. They were, however, an exceptionally important phenomenon because the Renaissance style of warfare revealed the true nature of the human spirit. The majority of people will gravitate away from war when given the chance. They will turn arenas of conflict into theaters of pageantry. They will choose life, color, and artistry over death, pallor, and decay. The Renaissance was a short period of history, revealing that when repression is ceased, when intolerance and war-inducing philosophies diminish in importance, and when people are able to think and act more freely, human beings as a whole will naturally and automatically move away from war. Puritan austerity and glorification of war helped make European wars bloodier. Puritan armies operated on the idea that wars were meant to be fought effectively, not colorfully. With that in mind, Puritans eliminated military glitter and developed efficient fighting units through rigorous drilling. This pragmatic way of fighting quickly spread when other nations discovered that a beautifully embroidered banner could not win against an effectively pointed cannon. While most military organizations today still engage in some pageantry, it is noticeably absent in the actual conduct of war. We observe instead austere fighting uniforms, curt efficiency, and military strategists who coldly calculate nuclear megadeath with percentage points and profitability factors. They are all reflections of the pragmatism reintroduced into war by the Puritans and other Protestants. As we survey the war-mangled bodies of our fellow humans who have been killed more efficiently and more pragmatically, perhaps, we realize that Renaissance pageantry was not so silly after all. Despite its early successes, the new Puritan government under Cromwell did not last very long. The Stuart dynasty reigned in the British throne in 1660 with the crowning of Charles II. Well, that's the Stuart bloodline. That's the bloodline, Merovingian bloodline Phyllis Schlafly is half part of. She's part of the Stuart bloodline and the Bruce bloodline. That's why they worship that beast. Charles II died 25 years later in 1685 without an heir, and so his brother James II took the throne. James ruled a mere 3 years, after which a second English Revolution was launched in 1688, known as the Glorious Revolution. Although a big issue was still Protestantism versus Catholicism, the Puritans did not lead the Glorious Revolution. In fact, a great many Puritans had fled England to establish colonies in North America after Charles II assumed the throne. The Glorious Revolution was led in part by none other than the House of Orange-Nassau. By the time of the Glorious Revolution, the House of Orange was firmly seated on the Dutch throne. How Orange also came to take the British throne and reign over 3 nations at once is a fascinating story of political intrigue, and it's one we'll have to get to next time on the broadcast. That is Chapter 23, William and Mary Have a War. And can't wait to get into that. William and Mary Have a War. Can't wait to get into that. There's a reference to that in one of the Guster songs on the new album. It's interesting. But anyway, thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Thanks for staying up late with us. We do need your support. Go to the website, theglobalreality.com. Use the chip and banner there for the bills. Use the donate button if you want to help us get the rest away. We're on track to have the Cigarette Volume 2 out by 5/5/11. Need about $600 to get us there. So if you want to use the donate button and help us out and get it there, and those of you who have donated who have donated and continue to make large amounts of stuff, you guys are all going to get financial support, producer credits in the film. So thanks to everybody out there for continuing to support our work. Please support us, folks. We do need it right now. We're pushing forward to get this movie out by May 5th. And then after that, well, we'll just have to see where we're going to go. And still going to also try to have a premiere event as well. So maybe you guys can come out to that. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you. And we'll see you tomorrow on the broadcast. You guys have a great night. Take care.